What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Boleros. Sam here with the Sultan of Sando, Mr. Gab Lim. And finally, in not hungover, Maui Up is back. Welcome
Kamusta ka,
back,
Maui?
Mr. Maui Up.
Kamusta?
Naka, hindi nakasama sa Lasal UP episode pa. Nakabalik na. Bawi today.
Bawi. Okay, welcome
I'm sure
back,
yung
Mr.
uminom ka ng
Maui.
maraming Gatorade para ma-hydrate ka kahapon, pare.
Definitely. Yung blue, yung favorite ko.
Welcome back, Maui Up. You guys mentioned it actually. So today we are going to do our weekly hashtag Gatorade Ballers of the Week. And we're actually going to do our Boleros episode too. So if you're not familiar with this episode, it's the time where Gab, Maui, and I will pick our hashtag Gatorade Ballers of the Week. It can either be a player, coach, team, or any X factor that helped propel their team to victory. Just like how Gatorade can fuel you forward. Alright. So
Yan. Sakto for your hangovers.
Sorry,
Drink
excuse me.
Gatorade.
Excuse me. Let's. Okay. So today we're going to do hashtag Gatorade Ballers of the Week, and then we're also doing Boleros after. Maybe we can do 2 rounds if we have time. Let's start with the good news. Let's start positive. Let's pick our Gatorade Ballers of the Week. Let's start with you, Maui Up, since hindi ka namin narinig kahapon.
Yeah, I'm picking, dahil wala ako kahapon, I can pick Lasal. Diba? I'm picking Lasal for my Gatorade Baller of the Week. They just secured yung number 1 slot, and convincingly. I think they have, if I'm not mistaken, an 8 or 9 game winning streak heading into the postseason. Diba? I think we just saw them play one of their best games. What's great about Lasal's streak is it's not all about Kevin Kiambao anymore, diba? We've had the Mike Phillips game. We've had players like VJ David step up. We've had the wing players specifically step up. I think this is one of the things we've mentioned since the off-season. If the other guys stepped up, then maybe they can make up with the loss of losing an Evan Nelly and a Mark Nonoy. And then Escador from last season, diba? Those 3 were very critical players down the stretch. I've loved what I've seen. Diba? Palit-palit sila. Si Dungo, Makalalag, Gullena, every one of them. Parang hindi nga masyado ramdam na wala si Abadam. Diba? Even if he is one of their most crucial players, especially at the defensive end. Specifically, I've loved what I've seen with Mike Phillips. Grabe. If you watch, always talked about the development of Kevin Kiambao. We should also talk about the development of Mike Phillips. Grabe, when he entered the UAAP, he was literally an energy man. Somebody who grabbed rebounds and scored some easy baskets. Ngayon, he can create his own shot. He can also be the one to set up the play. It's crazy how underlooked.
He runs pick and roll too.
He runs pick and roll. Diba? It's crazy how underlooked the development of Mike Phillips has been. He's also been jacking up threes, maybe not as efficient as they want it to be, but the fact that he is starting to jack up threes is something to look forward to for the future, diba? This is why we hope that he eventually gets yung Gilas eligibility niya, because he can also play the 4. Diba? Dati he can only play the 5. Right now he's that skilled. He can drive to the basket. I've loved the development. And it's really one of the main reasons why LaSalle continues to be that hot spot for young big men prospects who want to convert their game, diba, to wing players. If Mike Phillips can also develop a 3-point shot, that would be amazing, diba? Also for Gilas, I'm sure he will eventually get yung eligibility niya. Anyway, as regards to LaSalle, they've secured the number 1 slot. Diba? Who would have thought? Diba? After losing to UE during the first round, everybody was panicking. Everybody was saying maybe LaSalle will not get that twice to win advantage this season. But they have secured that number 1 slot. And they are, without a doubt, the hottest team going into the off-season. So they are my Gatorade Ballers of the Week.
I just want to add to that pick. it's an obviously good pick. They've won 9 straight. You Maui, you mentioned or you listed mga players na umalis sa kanila or nawala sa kanila from the previous season. I watched the game yesterday. I saw the game yesterday and I saw si Policarpio dun sa game watching. And you know what? I forgot about Polly. I forgot na nawala si Polly sa kanya. And I remember when
Hindi
he
ko nga
decided,
nasabi.
ha? Hindi mo nga nasabi. Exactly, 'di ba? Hindi mo nasabi. And when he left, nung nagulat tayo na nag-pro siya bigla, we were worried, 'di ba? Kasi sabi natin he's like the KQ replacement. He keeps them competitive while KQ rests. Pero so far hindi mo naramdam masyado yung absence niya. Not as much as we were expecting. And that says a lot about this Lasal team na to your point nga Maui, a lot of people have stepped up. It also helps na Mike Phillips has taken his has taken the next step, 'di ba? Or the next level in his superstardom. So ang daming nawala sa Lasal na that played very crucial minutes last season but they haven't missed a beat. Natalo lang sila. You can say it's a fluke against UE, but so far they've been perfect ever since.
With how UE is playing so far, I
It
think it
seems
is a
like a
fluke.
fluke, yeah.
Diba? And
Mapapag-usapan
we'll get to
natin yan
UE
mamaya.
later. Mag-uusapan natin UE
Yeah,
later. But yeah,
definitely.
that loss to UE seems like a pretty fluke. They have not replicated that performance so far. What I like about LaSalle is that they gave it on the defensive end. They gave it to UP on the defensive end. They gave. I said this in our episode yesterday, Sam. They gave UP a taste of their own medicine. I forgot to mention, and thank you to one of our subscribers who did point this out. UP only converted three-point shots. This has always been a barometer for LaSalle's success in games. Can they limit the shooting of opposing teams? And in the first round, it was true versus UP. I think UP only made 2, and now they only made 3 threes against LaSalle. This is obviously a point of emphasis on the defensive end for Coach Topex. Don't let UP get hot from 3 because once they get hot from 3, it's pretty difficult to stop them, especially when they have guys getting into the paint like JD and Francis Lopez. So I love the pick, a pretty obvious pick. But for my Gatorade Baller of the Week, I am wearing yellow in commemoration of the UST Growling Tigers and Nick Cabañero most especially.
I love that. I had Nick as one of my candidates.
Hindi ko alam kung napanood nyo yung first half ni Nick Cabañero against UE. My God, he got everything he wanted on the offensive end. Diba? We said it, Sam, when we watched in a small gym in UST, how huge Nick Cabañero is for a wing player. How
Especially
much
in person.
No, especially in person, he's not only tall, he's also bulky. You know, he gets to his spots. He gets to the rim at will. Players bounce off him. Siguro si Porter lang or siguro si Marasigan lang yung talagang may strength to match up with a guy like Nick Cabañero because in that UE game, he was getting to the rim at will, getting 3-point plays after 3-point plays. No one of the wing players from UE could stop him. Just a walking mismatch. And I said UST because they got an all-important win. We were hoping for a 5-way tie. That 5-way tie dream kind of was down the drain when UST won. And shout out also to the friend of my wife, si Ramon Marfil, who did message us that it was a 0.63% probability for a 5-way tie to actually occur.
0.63%? Totoo ba? Legit?
Oh, no!
Wow.
That's what he said. And with how things turned out,
he was right.
He was right. It was very unlikely. But yeah, that was a big statement win for UST because if they had lost that game, that would put all of the pressure on them to win their remaining game against Adamson, and it lessens the pressure on Adamson and FEU to win all of the remaining games. Because now at 6 wins, Adamson essentially has to win the remaining games. FEU has to beat UP. If UST had lost, FEU could have afforded not to win against UP and still be tied. Diba? But now with this win, they're now tied in wins with UE. They have a shot at the number 3 seed. They put the pressure now on the teams below them to win the remaining games. UST returning to the Final Four is now, right now, very feasible reality for the UST community. After all the criticisms, and rightfully so, I might add, all the criticisms of Coach Pido, he has put UST back in the Final Four picture, and barring any loss or wild things that will happen in the remaining games, I think UST has this on lock. They just have to beat Adamson. Just this big game against Adamson. They just have to beat Adamson. Just one game. Just play excellently for one game, and you will have your Final Four since the Alden Ayo era. Diba? So, we'll talk about UE later, but definitely for UST, this was a very big win. Sammy, Maui.
Win that game and get to the Final Four, di ba? Tama ka, Gab, sa Saturday. That's the biggest game, di ba? To shut down all the bashers of UST. But very good pick. I loved how Nick Cabañero really showed that he wants to get to the Final Four. I think of all the players in the UST, siguro siya talaga yung pinaka-hapit to get to the Final Four, as they would say, di ba? He really imagine he stayed there for 2-3 seasons just to be able to get this chance. So I think that's why we also see him that aggressive that early on during that game.
Yeah, UST. Go, Gab.
You just to add lang, Sammy. That game against UE kind of reminded me why there were rumors that he was being recruited to sign for pro teams already abroad. I think after his second season. Diba? Even when UST was 1-13, pro teams were already trying to get Nick Cabañero to play for them. And I think this was kind of confirmed in the pre-game video a couple of games ago, Sam. I think you mentioned this to me. When Coach Pido and Coach Nick were talking, and Coach Pido said the biggest blessing for this season is that Nick decided to stay in UST. So that basically
hindi mo ako
confirms,
iniwan, Nick. Sabi ni Coach.
Diba? Sabi niya, hindi mo ako iniwan. So that basically confirms that Nick was thinking about it. That there were offers. That there were temptations abroad or to the professional ranks for Nick Cabañero. Because if you were a scout and you watch Nick Cabañero dominate like that against UE, you would be enticed because he definitely has the skills to... I would be shocked if he doesn't get a contract in the KBL or in Taiwan or in the Japan B League. He's that good. Whether he stays again for next season, we'll see. But I would much rather have him go pro already. I mean, you never know what's gonna happen. Jerome Lastimosa, knock, you know. But I think making the Final Four would be a good cherry on top. Shout out to all my blooms. You will be a good cherry on top to the career of Nick Cabañero. Sammy.
Yeah, UST definitely is one of the ballers of the week, and I love the Nick Cabañero pick actually. On the UST side, I've said how disappointed I was in the past with UST kasi marami silang mga winnable games, 'di ba? And sabi ko nga, on paper, nandun yung talent eh. It's not translating consistently as wins. Pero, I mean, to be fair to Coach Pido and to UST, kapag crucial na yung games, they have won them. I remember they had a 3-game losing streak, almost out of contention na. There was a crucial game against FEU where if FEU won that game, lalampasan sila ng FEU if I remember correctly. But they won that game. And then, this game also, sabi mo Gab, it was a very big game because this could have really ruined their chances for the Final Four if they lost to UE. So when it counts, they can cough up wins. Kudos din kay Nick Cabañero kasi a lot of people, a lot of stars joined this team, diba? We can definitely say this is a much more talented team than last season. And sometimes it's hard to gel with those other superstars, or sometimes yung tendency mo is, okay, mag-take turns kayo to take over. But Nick Cabañero has been the most consistent superstar in this UST team. He's still clearly the main guy of this UST team, despite having a MVP candidate, former Mythical 5 member in Fortsky Pradrigao, despite having one of the best FSAs, we would say, this season, si Motong Kara. Nick Cabañero is still clearly the best player on this team, and is the most important player on this team. So he deserves the Gatorade Baller of the Week. Unbelievable. Every time Coach Pido needs a bucket, he goes to Nick Cabañero. He's been that good. Love that pick.
I have a question. If you were UP or LaSalle, who would you rather have? UST or someone else? Or UE, let's say. They're the ones here in the Final Four picture. Would you rather have a UE or a UST to face in the Final Four? Maui.
Actually, I think both teams are capable to beat naman anybody. But given the track record of UE with LaSalle, I would pick UST if I were LaSalle. And maybe if I were UP, I'd pick UE. I'd pick UST versus LaSalle because maybe one of the keys of the game to win for LaSalle always is to limit yung perimeter points, diba? So if UE gets hot, then maybe anything can happen again, diba? So with regards to my pick as UP to face UE, I think they have the best backcourt naman, diba? We've always said that. Even Coach Tabas said that. A number of coaches have said that. So they have the tools naman to stop that perimeter game from UE. So I think they're the better matchup. When you talk about UST, kasi they also have the arguably, probably, if you talk about two players only, they have an argument to have the best backcourt too. Diba? So I would choose UE over UST when you talk about UP.
That's a good point. I'm swerving. I'm picking the opposite. So if I were LaSalle, I'm not ducking UE. The only team that has beaten me so far in this season. So I'm not happy with just one win. I need to get my revenge. Gab.
LaSalle is not gonna duck UE. They don't have a choice in the matter. They're number one.
Hindi, sabi mo, who would you rather have? Diba? Yung tanong mo. So, I'd rather have UE because I want to get more wins. I want to get my revenge on UE.
Like kung magsisimba ka yung this Sunday, sino pagdadasalan mo na maging number 4, UE or UST? So you say that you'd rather have UE.
I'd rather have that. Yeah, just to prove that it was just a fluke. That loss was just a fluke. But actually, it depends on tama si Maui, diba? These two teams can really surprise. These two teams can compete against the best of them. Pero with how UE has been performing, I'd also rather have UE kasi they've been performing poorly.
Now that's a
they've
good
been
point.
performing poorly, diba? So kung iisipin mo lang yung kung sino yung mahina, I think UE would be the one that I would pick if I'm LaSalle. And then for UP, yeah, UST probably. I think both of them would rather have UE with how UE is performing. Pero I kind of like the UP UST matchup. Fortsky versus as a fan. Fortsky versus JD, and then si Nick Cabañero, ilalagay mo si Jerry Apadiano, one of the best defenders there. You can throw a couple of good defenders at Harold. You could even put Francis Lopez if you want. Kung
crowd versus crowd.
Guy.
UP versus
crowd,
UST.
UP versus UST, something we've been asking for. So as a fan, I'd rather have that. Good question.
Good point. So who's your baller of the week, Sammy?
For my hashtag Gatorade baller of the week, I'm trying to pick between two teams. Pero I met someone kahapon. Na-mention natin siya yesterday, and I think I have to pick this team. I have to pick Adamson. Kasi I was talking to Billy yesterday from Adamson, and sabi niya, I keep doubting Adamson. So, I was trying to pick between
Billy,
Adamson
I
and
heard what
another
you
team.
said. Diba? The only believer is right here.
Sabi niya,
Oy,
si
Let's
Gab lang daw
go.
naniniwala sa Adamson.
sinabi ko nun early season sa podcast ni our friend Navin na dark horse
Nabs.
team ang Adamson to
Oh,
make the final
Maui
four.
has defended Adamson. Ikaw lang talaga sabi eh. Ikaw.
Sorry, Coach Nash. Sorry, Adamson. Oh, ito na nga. Pinipili ko na nga sila na Gatorade Ballers of the Week, di ba? We've a lot of people, I think a lot of people doubted Adamson. Hindi lang naman ako. There were times na it didn't look good for Adamson, but they've managed to win the past 2 games. Alam nyo ba, by the way, na Adamson yung last team to have a winning streak? So, after winning against
Oh, really?
NU, kasi diba, they won against UE and then they won against NU. So, first time nila magka-winning streak. Naunahan pa sila ng NU, diba? So, after everything, ilan ba yun? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5-game losing streak. They're now on a 2-game winning streak. They have a chance to make it with a very crucial game against UST and then a game against bottom dweller Ateneo, but a team that beat them actually in the first round. So I think they're in a good spot right now. They have a good chance to win it, and they do have an advantage over FEU. Both teams have 5 wins, pero si Adamson 7 losses lang. FEU already has 8. So
And FEU is going up against UP.
UP.
So,
Right. So, if you
A
look
mad
at
UP team.
a mad UP team, diba?
Mad
So, if
UP
you look
team.
at the chances, I think I'd pick Adamson over FEU to crack that Final Four spot if kung matanggal man dito yung UST. And then, yesterday, I know NU's one of the bottom dwellers also, but they went up against a hot team. A team that beat UP and has been on a 2-game winning streak. I really expected this to be a crazy game. I actually expected NU. Again, I underrated Adamson. I was expecting NU to get a win here or at least keep it close. But Adamson just gave NU the business and woke them up from their dream 2-game run, 2-game winning streak. This Adamson's team, wala silang superstar pero they're just so solid, and we've talked about this before.
I told y'all.
Oo nga, Gabi. Actually, pag makita ko yung buong lineup, parang they're all playable. And I forget, I think sa mismatch to, Gab, sabi ni Verno na a secret to like a good team or like a winning team is have the entire team consist of good players. Diba?
Or guys that don't suck. Diba? Yun yung words
Guys
niya.
that don't suck. Guys that don't suck. Yun yung sabi ni Verno, di ba? Tama, si Verno nagsabi nun, di ba? So, and I think sa akin, that's Adamson eh. Like, you look at that roster, okay. Merong guys that kind of suck that aren't playable, pero a majority of their players wag na
Austin
natin
Ronzone.
sabihin. God.
Hashtag Austin Ronzone. Got his
Wala
first
akong sinabi.
point.
Got
his
got 2
first
points.
points.
Shout out to Austin. But yeah, like these guys are really solid. They're good players and they play within the system. Player of the game yesterday was AJ Franzman, and he was unbelievable. Meron siyang, I think bandang 4th quarter yun, meron siyang move na nagulat ako tapos biglang na-lay up niya. He was crazy. This guy's really good. And by the way, his younger brother is also in Adamson in the juniors team. So,
Nako.
baka mapuntang NU, no? I'm so impressed with AJ Franzman. He was such a good get for Adamson. Obviously, you have the other guys. Mati Orolon contributed. Kalisay was solid. Si Manzano only had 6 points. And Montebon only had 6 points also. But that's the thing about Adamson. They're so balanced. Like, a lot of guys can score. And then yung defensive end, they held NU to, I think it was
41
like
points.
41 points. Pero,
Right after holding UE to 37.
exactly. And I was looking at the
Fucking
box.
crazy.
I was looking at the score, Gab. NU was at 37 or 38 pretty much end of the game na yun. And then naka last minute, I think 3-pointer na lang si NU. That's why it became 41 or 3-point play or something like that. But yeah, they held them to like almost 30s ulit, diba? That's crazy defense. You have to credit the defense of Adamson to that. So I think they have to be a Gatorade baller of the week for me. Gab, ano masasabi mo sa team mo? The team that you believed in?
I definitely had them. I had them and UST as my ballers of the week. I chose UST because their win was more important, diba? Just to
True.
get some distance from the rest of the competition. But I also add Adamson there. Again, masterclass in defense. Just this Adamson team is so good on defense. If ever their offense eventually catches up or eventually becomes even a slight bit competent, they will probably make battle for a top seed in the UAAP because their defense is already so freaking good. Yung offense na talaga yung problema nila. They cannot generate enough offense consistently to win against the big teams. You just look at their first round matchup against UP. They were up by 22 points in the first half and then fell flat for the rest of the game just because they could not generate offense consistently. But defensively, NU was just having a hard time getting shots off against this Adamson team. There were a ton of end of the shot clock shots for NU. There were a lot of shot clock violations. There were a ton of turnovers by NU. I think they started the fourth quarter with 30 points on the board. 30!
Parang,
Like, what? It's not a coincidence that they've held their wins. In their past two wins, they've held teams to 37 and 41 points. This is how they want to win. This is how they want to play. They will slow the game down. They will lock you up on defense. And yung offense, it comes and goes. But if they lock you up on defense and that will give them a chance to win. Ako so impressed with the defense. And as you said, AJ Franzman got the needed buckets. Just enough to lift them over NU.
he was also the main guy nung UE game, huh? So that's 2 straight games where he has carried this team in the fourth quarter.
And we did talk about this, Sam, na si AJ Franzman is one of these guys, siguro along with Mantua, Montebon, and Terolon, who can create and get their own shots. Siguro si Manzano, you can count them there. But from the perimeter, it's mostly those guys, no? And si Franzman has responded the past couple of games. That Saturday game versus UST is obviously a must-win. If UST wins, they're assured of the Final Four. I don't think anyone can get to 7 wins if UST wins. So, if UE continues to fall, then yes, they will have a chance. But UST, if they win on Saturday, sure, they're gonna make it. They're gonna make it to the Final Four. So both teams are at a must-win situation. I can't wait. Maybe we could do an emergency podcast right after that game because that's probably the biggest game of the weekend. And yun, kudos to Adamson UST. Big wins this weekend. Maui.
Yeah. Ako comment ko lang sa Adamson is grabe, 'di ba? They put themselves in this position again, 'di ba? Nobody expected them to be there last year. Si Gab expected them to be there early on. Ako kasi when the season started, that's when I just realized, maybe the first few games, that's when I started to realize they have mostly the same core from last season plus a few guys. So maybe maybe they could still put themselves in this position, diba, to try to make it to the Final Four. Other comments is Franzman. You mentioned Sammy he has had two of the his best games, the last two games, which were big games, diba, for this team. Maybe this is the player that they need to take the next level for next season. Maybe we see some of these players take the next level so they can have that consistent offense to be able to thrive next season and contend. Much like what Gab mentioned, maybe this is what they need to be able to get over the hump, so they won't be just Final Four contenders, but they can contend with the biggest of teams, diba? I'm happy kasi the parity in the UAAP, I mean, in the bottom teams, diba? We've seen very good games, we've seen competitive games. UP and LaSalle maybe a step higher, but we've seen teams upset these teams also, diba? So kahit papano, kasi at the early part of the season, we expected both of these teams to sort of sweep the eliminations, diba? Maybe lose to each other lang, but we've seen some teams get some wins versus them. UP was even being compared to that Ateneo 16-0 team.
That did not age well, my friend.
That did not age well. I think that's very ridiculous. You should watch our episode about that. We mentioned that they still had a lot to prove. But with regards to Adamson, it's crazy, diba? They're in the same position as last season. They could steal a Final Four slot if all the stars align, diba? That game on Saturday could cement that. Let's see.
Yeah. One more thing before we move on to our Boleros of the week. One thing that I do appreciate about Adamson, alam naman nating they don't have as much funding as these other big schools, diba? Like against UP, LaSalle, Ateneo, even UST. But they always manage to build a very competitive team. They also don't have a rich history like UE. Sabihin na nila, winningest team in UAAP basketball. So, you have to credit Coach Nash, the coaching staff, the management, on how they built this team to be competitive despite a lot of limitations. And we talked about this before. Marami ring nawala sa kanila. They didn't get their high school stars. None of them went to Adamson, and yet they're here. They have a chance to make it to the Final Four. So kudos to Adamson.
Wala nang
Big
off-court
game on
issues. Sa pa yun.
Wala nang off-court issues. Okay. Sige, let's move on to the bad news, the negative side. Let's talk about our hashtag Boleros of the week. Let's start with you, Maui, again.
Yeah, I'll pick Ateneo as that Boleros of the week.
I had them.
Yeah.
I had them on my list. Yes,
Of course.
Diba? I
First
mean,
team to be eliminated.
first team to be eliminated. The expectations were not high during the preseason. We've mentioned this. We have to admit that. But they actually had their chance, diba, to be able to also sneak into that Final Four battle, diba? They've lost games that they could win, sana. So any of those games that could have gone their way, maybe we could be talking about them like Adamson. But we have to say that they are the Boleros of the week because they were the first team eliminated. And that means that the streak, I think the longest Final Four streak of nine seasons, I think for Ateneo is broken. So UP now has the longest Final Four streak. I think I read that from the master statistician of the UAAP, Sir Pong Ducanes.
Sultan of Stats.
Sultan of Stats. But we have to say them. Kasi baka sabihin nyo, bias kami because we're Ateneans. But no, despite all of that off-season problems, diba, we still expected this team to try to make it to the Final Four. They still have Coach Stab. They were still able to get the number one recruit. But let's see what happens from here on out. Diba? I'm actually interested to see how they bounce back. Will they bounce back? They come next season. But what a disaster this season has been, both on and off the court, I would say, for Ateneo. We've been hearing rumbles that maybe Coach Tab will not come back next season. I mean, that's been the case naman every year. Diba? So will it be the year finally that Coach Tab will not be back? That's something to watch out for. But what we wanted was hope for Ateneo, and we sort of got that, but not that much. We still don't know if they can actually turn the program around quickly. Maybe this goes on. Maybe this is the dark ages of Ateneo. Maybe they turn it around in one season. That's something to look forward to. But they have to be my Gatorade Ballers of the week.
Boleros.
Boleros.
Sorry, Boleros. Of course, Boleros.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ateneo, Cap.
I definitely had them on my list. I had them and NU because they were the two teams that were eliminated this weekend for the Final Four race. You guys did not give me my 5-way tie. I wanted that 5-way tie. But
Improbable.
Ateneo. But Ateneo, man, in their game against FU, I was there. They just could not generate enough offense just to keep up with FEU. Diba? And FEU in the first half and for majority of the game dared Ateneo to shoot from the outside. They were strictly in a zone for majority of the first half and even for stretches in the second half. And Ateneo just could not find the bottom of the net. The offensive problems just continue. Kudos to Ian Espinosa for keeping them in this game. When Ian Espinosa is your best player, medyo mag-isip-isip ka na kung bakit ganun, di ba? Kasi bakit si Ian yung entrusted to become the number one offensive option on this team, or the number one guy being entrusted for offense. That's not supposed to be his role. That was his role last year, and it was a disaster. We can't have that again like this. Although he did do a good job, he was hot, but the rest of the team just could not go along offensively. And defensively, FEU was getting to the rim at will, which is another problem for this season. They don't have a competent big man. Porter is their nearest thing to a competent center, and he's 6'3". Kyle Ong had a brief ray of hope in
Nag-Mitch Robinson. Dalawang block from 3-point line.
No, the long block from jump shots, gave a lot of elbows. You know about Kyle Ong, he is a very, very everyone's okay, fine. He's a very dirty player. I mean, and I think he has to be because he's
Natuto
so
kay
thin.
Gio Chu.
Yeah, Sam, he has to do it because he's so thin. He's so
thin.
Hindi niya kaya makipaghang with the bigger guy, so he does give a lot of elbows here and there. He is a pretty physical player when you watch him play. But yeah, this is. I said in Nabs' podcast that maybe 4 wins could be an optimistic target for Ateneo this season. It's still not. It's still possible, but the fact that we got 3 wins, there was a ray of hope that there is talent on this team. That this team can pull out wins in the clutch for all of their 3 wins. So there is hope there, but all in all, we have to call a spade a spade. This season sucks for Ateneo. They've blown leads in the fourth quarter. They've kept it close in third quarters and then blown it again. They had another single-digit quarter against FEU, I think. The offensive struggles continue. They need bigs. They need more scorers, and they need a lot of development from this young core. And hopefully this young core stays. That's the case now with the UAAP. That's the landscape of the UAAP now. Will these players stay? Will these players be patient? There are a lot of good perimeter players here, but again, man, they're pretty young. They're pretty small. It's not. Maybe they could pull out a win versus UE this Wednesday without Precious Momowei. We'll see. They have another game against Adamson, which they beat in the first round. So maybe they could pull out that 4th win and reach my optimistic goal for them. Anything to add before I name my Bolero of the week?
Shout out to to Ray Mogat for that conspiracy theory of UE Momowei getting suspended for Ateneo's playing a non-bearing game, di ba? This coming.
And we'll
Kasalanan pa
get to that.
nila.
And that's a very good transition, Maui, because my pick for Bolero of the Week are the referees from the UE UST game.
Yung.
Because I don't think, and this
I agree.
I'm not being biased or anything. I am from Ateneo, and we are facing a UE team without Precious Momowei this Wednesday. But I don't think Precious Momowei should have been ejected, and I don't think those were unsportsmanlike fouls on Precious Momowei. It just looked bad because of the blood. But if,
Yeah.
from my perspective, from my television, from the live play, from the replays, it was a natural basketball motion that he was doing. He got fouled, he waved his hands, and he just caught Motongkara. He just caught Jello Crisostomo on both
Crisostomo.
times. And it looked bad because there was so much blood.
Yep.
But I don't think he meant to hurt. I don't think that in both instances, those warranted an unsportsmanlike foul. Again, man, I don't blame the refs because it looks bad, but you have to look at the intent of the play. You have to look at what really happened during the play. And though what Precious did was not intentional, matigas lang siguro mga siko niya, kaya
Ang tulis no?
Oh, yung kaya dumugo ng ganun si Mo saka si Jello. But that they should not have ejected him. They should not have given him the unsportsmanlike foul. He is once again disqualified from any postseason awards, which is unfortunate. I'm sure he could have battled for that mythical 5 selection. And he's once again suspended. And it just so happens, coincidence ha, na yung Ateneo ang next na kalaban. Wait a moment, there's no conspiracy theory, there's no collusion happening that palagi against Ateneo mangyayari yung mga ganyang suspension. And it just so happens na Ateneo next na kalaban. But I am on Precious' side. I don't think he should have been ejected from that game. The ref should have shown more restraint. I know it looked ugly. It looked really bad. A lot of blood. But you have to look at the intent, and you have to look at the stake of the game. The stakes in this game that you ejected Precious Momowei in a big game like that when they were making a run. Nonetheless, they were making a run in that second half when they ejected Precious.
Yeah. Good point.
The refs are a Bolero of the week for me. Those were two bad calls of Precious. He was fouled on both plays too. That was the thing.
True.
He was fouled on both plays, and they gave him the unsportsmanlike foul just because of the blood. I feel really sorry for Precious. He did not deserve to be ejected. Sammy, I'm sure we were talking. You had the same
We were
opinion.
talking about this, yeah. We were talking about this. Actually, I had the play the refs also as my Boleros of the week. So na mention mo na. I agree 100%. Precious Momowei didn't deserve yung flagrant foul calls on those two plays. It just made it look, the blood made it look a lot worse than what actually happened, at least from our perspectives. I don't think there was any intent, but I do think probably what happened there was they made a mistake the first time. They called the flagrant, and they had to be consistent. So they had to call another flagrant since it was very, very similar. So what are the chances, diba, na mangyayari ulit yun? You also mentioned it kasi para sa akin, hindi naman niya kasalanan, no? Pero in a way, loser or bolero si Precious Momowei dito. Kasi number one, he got the flagrant calls. He got thrown out. He's getting suspended, so he couldn't help the team against UST, and now he won't be able to help his team against Ateneo. And they really need to win to make sure they lock up their Final Four slot. And also, he won't get the chance to win any awards for the second straight years. So again, I don't think it was Precious's fault. So yun yung masakit doon or masaklap doon. siguro just jumping on that since na-mention mo na rin si Precious. UE also sort of a bolero of the week for me. Again, on a losing streak, they were so close, diba? They were the team that was clearly the number 3 at the start of the second round. All they needed to do was hit 7 or 8. Sabi mo, Maui was the magic number to lock it in. And they've lost how many straight games in a row? 3 straight games in a row.
1-5. Second
1
round,
and
I think.
5 in the second round. So, very complete opposite of how good they
1 and
were
4.
in the first round.
1-4.
1-4
Ah,
pala.
1 and 4, 1 and 4, yeah. Complete opposite of how they performed in the first round. We talked about some of the players that haven't showed any good games lately. I think si Jack Cruz Dumont, Welo Lingo were good nung game against UST. Sino ba yung gusto ko i-ano? Ethan Galang again. I think he fouled out and he was 0 of 5 again. So in the past 3 losses, Ethan Galang has scored 0 points and shot like what? 0 of 20 in the past 3 losses. So now that I'm mentioning this, I'm pretty sure he's gonna get hot against Ateneo and score like 6 3-pointers against Ateneo for sure. But yeah, he couldn't shoot, he couldn't score, he fouled out. Very frustrated yung itsura niya.
Hindi lang siya, Sammy.
John
Buong
Abate.
UE.
John
Buong
Abate.
UE, actually.
Actually, buong UE. But these are the guys that I expected to do really well, diba? Or carry the team na we were so happy dun sa performance nila in the past. But I actually hindi ko alam. I can't explain it. I can't explain what's happening to UE now. Feel ko si Coach Jack din hindi niya maintindihan. They almost fought back sa game na to be fair, but couldn't make it.
They've been on a slump for 8 quarters until halftime of that UE-UST game. If you remember, against Adamson, they were cold the entire game. In their last game against FEU, they were cold the entire game. They could not hit shots to save their life. And in the first half against UST, I think how many points did they score? I think less than 20 points in the first half. So they were cold for 8 quarters straight. And I messaged you guys, is it possible for this to happen, that this team is cold for 8 quarters straight? They just can't buy a bucket until finally in the second half of the UST game, they finally found the bottom of the net. They just fell short. Again, the Precious Momowei ejection yung played the part into that. But yeah, you have to give them the Bolero of the week because they have put themselves into a very dangerous position because the Wednesday game against Ateneo is now a must-win because their last game is against UP. So they have to win on Wednesday against Ateneo. Now it helps na it's against Ateneo, who doesn't really have a competent FSA and doesn't really have a competent center to match up with UE. So they do have a chance, a very good chance against Ateneo on Wednesday. But let's see, there is no pressure. They have to hit shots. They have to hit their outside shots. Much like their first round encounter with Ateneo, they have to get hot. Diba? Because they
Any
can't
game.
go again. Oh.
Any game, they need to get hot outside.
Yeah.
Lalo na ngayon, walang Precious eh. Yun eh.
If they run cold again, it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough to pull out a win because they have been really, really cold in the second round. Nawala yung 3-point shooting magic from the first round. As I said, as we said earlier, mukhang one-off game lang yung against Salle. Mukhang fluke nga. Kasi never na umulit yung shooting nila na ganun. It's concerning that all of them are cold. Diba? Siguro si Maga got some points in their last game, but most of their guys are just not hitting shots. And that has been the problem. That's the problem with not having a guy like Remogat, diba? A guy who can get you a bucket when needed. So we'll see on
Sakto.
Wednesday. Oh, we'll see on Wednesday. Let's see if they can get out of their funk. If there's one team that it's easy to get rim baskets, it's Ateneo because they don't have a rim protector. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Okay, sige. Maui.
No, yeah, I think ang nakakatakot lang sa iyo is baka mag-low of averages, di ba? As they say, bigla na lang silang
Bomba.
uminit at the right time. Saktong UE pa bomba, no? But yeah, I just want to say yung kay Precious Momowei kasi while you guys were talking, I was actually reviewing yung rules ng FIBA regarding yung unsportsmanlike foul. I think the UAAP adopted only 4 out of 5 of the rules of FIBA. And if you read it in Google, I won't read it all. There's four criteria, and I think of all the 4 criteria, not one of those should be a reason why Momowei should get both of those sportsmanlike fouls. So hopefully, the game is still on Wednesday, but the UAP, as always, is mum and walang balita dun sa appeal ng UE, so it looks like it's gonna be suspended. But I hope in the future, di ba, the UAP has to be proactive, di ba? They should be able to review, di ba? Maybe take out the suspension if it doesn't merit the player getting that suspension. I actually remember si Kian Baclaan last season, di ba? He got suspended because he was faking a foul, 2 technical fouls.
Season 85 yun, Maui. Season 85.
Season 85 pala. Season 85.
Which
So,
disqualified him from being the Rookie of the Year, di ba? Yun.
Which disqualified him from being Rookie of the Year. I think the penalty is too grave to the suspension, di ba? Yung automatic suspension. I think what should be the case should be they should be reviewing, di ba, what happened during the games, why this player got ejected. I think if we talk about rule changes, this is one of the rules, di ba? Maybe we can talk about this in the off-season. But this is one of the rules that I think the UAAP should look at, di ba? Kasi kawawa rin yung player, di ba? Momowei is gonna get disqualified from getting any awards for the second season in a row, di ba? When you see naman that he's not usually a bad or a physical player or somebody who does this on purpose, di ba?
He's not Draymond Green. Diba? Yun.
Exactly.
Intentionally
he's
trying
just
to hurt
very emotional, pero he's not dirty or physical.
We don't see naman players saying Momowei is dirty, diba? Like what's the case for some of the players, diba? It just so happens that he was maybe in a bad time and in a bad place, diba? That's probably been the case, diba? For especially for those 2 sportsmanlike fouls last week, and tama kayo, it's because there was blood. Maybe that's one of the main reasons why it was upgraded to a sportsmanlike foul. But it's crazy, diba? He got fouled on both occasions, as Gab mentioned. So I think in the future the UAAP should review, diba? Is yung Kian Baclaan and this Momowei ejection is should be the basis for that review, diba? Some players naman don't really deserve getting a suspension just because of an ejection from a previous game. That's all.
Good point. Any honorable mentions before we end? Boleros, Ballers, and
UP.
Anything we missed?
We talked about it.
We talked
about it yesterday. That second half, well, UP except JD Kagulangan, I think has to be an honorable mention for Bolero of the week. Like, what happened? Maui, I'm interested to hear your thoughts because you weren't here yesterday. Sam and I have talked about this. What were your thoughts on UP's performance yesterday?
Yeah, actually, not just yesterday, diba? They even had that loss against NU.
Yun pa. So, more so than the Bolero of the week. One of the Boleros of the week.
Actually, if you watch yung episode natin from that NU game, I was actually preaching some concern na already about how UP has been playing, diba? I think it's a bit concerning because we're heading into the Final Four. It seems that players are out of the rhythm, diba? They're struggling right now. Si JD Kagulangan was the only player who showed up. The game against NU, it was only Terculas who showed up, and I think it's one of the main reasons why Terculas also started, diba, the game against Salle, because he was the only player who showed up against
NU. Yun at nakikinig si Coach Gold sa Boleros, Maui.
Tama. Nakikinig si Coach Gold sa Boleros. But I think it's a bit concerning, diba? It used to be before, when Alarcon was called, Abadiano was there to rescue the party. When Abadiano was called, Alarcon was there. But right now, it's a bit concerning because we're seeing most of their players, 'di ba, out of rhythm and in a funk. 'Di ba? That game against NU showed that it could happen, that apparently it can happen that this 16-man deep lineup could all go cold at the same time. And to a certain degree, that was the point. That was also the case against LaSalle, di ba? You can credit, siyempre, the defense of LaSalle, how they played, how they harassed yung perimeter players ng UP. But with the talent that they have on their lineup, it's a bit concerning lang to me right now. They have to really show. They still have time, di ba? They still have 2 games to go before the Final Four. But if I were them, I would really, they really have to show up during those last 2 games, diba? Especially that game against UE, diba? They have to show their might. It looks like siguro nung early season, a lot of teams were afraid, diba, against UE, but they've shown their cracks the past few games. It's concerning. I don't know. Can this UP team, if they make the finals, can this UP team beat LaSalle 2 out of 3 games? I think the question right now is probably not. Diba? And for UP, it's championship or bust. Diba? They've been second place so many times. Diba? So it's championship or bust. Diba? They had to. It's one of the reasons why they loaded up even at the latter part of the offseason, getting QMB. Diba? So it's concerning. I think if you look at social media, nagpapanik na yung fans ng UP. They say that they don't think that UP deserves to be in the finals. Some of them say that they don't have a chance against LaSalle. I would be the first to say that they still have a chance against LaSalle. They have the personnel, they have the coaching staff, they have the experience, diba? They just have to figure things out. They have to use their last 2 games wisely. They have to use that game, that Final Four game, when they have that twice to beat advantage. They have to take advantage of all these games to figure things out. Diba? It hasn't looked good. I think maybe that's a byproduct also of not having that steady of a rotation, not having players play consistent minutes. Diba? Si Belmonte was the starter, de facto starter. Maybe their first 10 games, he played 4 minutes. Diba, against LaSalle this week, and that's the problem you have when you have too many good players sometimes. Diba? You don't know who to play, you don't get consistent minutes, and these players lose their confidence, these players lose their rhythm. I would say si Sean Alter is the best example for this. During the offseason, this guy looked like the monster, diba? Somebody who could break out this season. He hasn't looked any bit like that person this season. Again, the question is, who of the 16 will stay, diba, for next season, especially if they don't win the championship?
Yeah, basically, Maui echoing my thoughts yesterday. Alarcon, 0 out of 8. It is concerning to me that his big games have come with JD out of the lineup. But when JD is in the lineup, he's disappeared. They have to find a way to get the 2 of them to play together. And it's concerning because they played together for how many seasons now? But they have to find a way to play off of each other. They're both, we know they're both good. They can be number 1 guys. But can they be a 1A and a 1B? We know Harold has the skills and the attitude to be a number 1 guy, but he needs the ball in his hands, which is weird to say. He's in season 84, he was a knockdown shooter, and now he's not anymore. He has to be the number 1 playmaker. It's really weird. What's the dynamic of UP? I also have to give a Bolero of the Week to the coaching staff. That move to bring in Chico Briones in the 4th quarter when the game was within reach is still one of the most baffling things to me that happened in the game yesterday. You put in your 13th or 14th guy on the roster to play in a 4th quarter in a single-digit game with Francis Lopez, despite having 4 fouls, still eligible to come back in the game. If you watch Chico Briones' plays yesterday, you would wonder why he was even there on the court. He missed a couple of shots, turned the ball over twice, made two crucial defensive mistakes that led, I think, to a Josh David layup and another basket for Salle. I just forgot which one it was. The KQ3. So, I don't know. I don't know what's going on with UP right now. Same with you, Maui. Nung after NU, I was sasabi ko, wala lang yan. It's a one-off thing. They won't play like this again. They're too experienced. They're too talented. They will not do this again. But after seeing them yesterday, I am a bit concerned. Now, a bit lang. Yung a bit concerned. I still think that they will bounce back against FEU. They do have a good coaching staff. They do have a lot of talented guys who have been to the finals before twice. So thrice nga for some. So I'm banking on that. If they play like this again against FEU, then I'm really pressing the panic button because what is really happening in UP? If that's the case. But I'm banking on that they will bounce back against FEU. Again, this is an FEU team that must win. So they are hungry. I don't buy, Sammy, your argument yesterday that they're just chilling yung because lock na sila for the twice to beat. I don't buy it. Diba? Hindi yun. Hindi talaga.
Hindi pwede. Hindi pwede. Parang Lasal, di ba? Parang Lasal, even if you have that twice to beat advantage, di ba? If you want to be champions, you have to be hungry every game.
Mm-hmm. So I'm looking forward to how UP responds. If they fall flat again, I'm sure a ton of UP fans will press the panic button with me. If they dominate against FEU, then I'm sure a lot of the worries will go away, me included. Sam, last words.
Yeah, just a few things before we end this show. I did a quick Google check. Actually, the UAAP has announced that they will uphold the suspension of Precious Momowei. Yung explanation dito is that intent is never considered but solely on the action undertaken. Apparently, in unsportsmanlike foul. So, kahit walang intent, basta there was an action.
I don't agree.
Yeah. So, that's that. Siguro one thing that we didn't get to talk about, Lasal is definitely a Gatorade Baller of the Week. But I do have to put KQ as a semi-bolero because of that Ligang Labas issue. Daming
Akala ko for the game yesterday. Like,
hindi. Ang dami lang distractions because of it. People talking about it and it became an issue pa. I think for me, number one, obviously he's risking his health, and then number two, it's added distraction to the team. So hopefully, maybe at least for the final stretch, he limits that or avoids that na. So baka lang people might be asking since we didn't talk about it. So worth mentioning.
Parang Michael Jordan siya, di ba? Meron clause sa contract. You can play basketball anytime you want.
Anytime. Paano si Jordan?
Kakaiba si KQ.
Okay, that's it for today's episode. Sorry, one last shout out. Shout out to Kirk, the owner of Varsity Lifestyle Co. I met him yesterday, chatted with him before the start of the game.
Thank you for the shirts.
Thank you for the shirts. Wore my UP Fighting Maroons shirt today. That's it for today's episode. Comment down below your thoughts. Share your hashtag Gatorade Ballers of the Week and your Boleros and get a chance to win some of the Gatorade merch. So we still have very few squeeze bottles left and I think a couple of shirts left. We'll be giving them away one last time. So please comment down below, share your thoughts. Don't forget to use the hashtag Gatorade Ballers of the Week. Like, comment, subscribe. We'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.